From the field to the film room to the war room, we've got you covered every step of the way as the road to the draft starts right now. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Armchair Scouts. I am your host, Shane Haff, and you can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. I'm joined today by my co-host and fellow draft enthusiast, Dibes. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Be sure to check out his podcast, Party on Broad. Dibes, how are you doing today?
Doing well, man. Unlike the quarterback show, this is one of the best position groups in the 2025 NFL draft. The running back class is super deep. I'm going to do my best to make sure I shout out some other names because we're going to talk our top 7, but there's a lot of guys that I think could be day 2. So we'll do our best.
Yeah, and we already got people in the comments mentioning Kenny Gainwell, who news just broke. He is signing a deal with the Steelers. So we're here for the Kenny Gainwell replacement episode of the Armchair Scouts. Also joined by Dibes, co-host on Party on Broad, Ryan. Give him a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Ryan, how are you doing?
Well, now I'm ecstatic. Kenny G's gone. I'm excited to talk about running backs and who might be a replacement for Kenny G.
All right. And last but not least, I am joined by my co-host on Chalk Talk, Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. _ and be sure to check out his Tough Cover radio show every Saturday. Mark, how are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing well. The draft part of me is doing well. I mean, the Eagles seem to have opened up a lot of holes in the last 48 hours for us nerds to geek out about for the next month and a half. But yeah, I could be doing better, I think. Maybe one less trade news today. Maybe one less guy leaving. I don't know.
All right. Well, let's dive into it. And as Dive said, we're going to do our top 7 today. We couldn't quite get it down to 5. We thought about doing 10 and thought the show would be forever long. And we're probably going to have to end up doing that for edge rushers next week anyways. So we're going to do our top 7. And so let's start off. Ryan, who do you have for your number 7?
So my number 7 guy, this will make Rufus super happy. And I'm going to be talking about Cam Skattebo. This guy seemingly came out of nowhere and was a Heisman Trophy finalist for Arizona State, amassing 1,586 rushing yards and 22 total touchdowns. He did finish 5th in the Heisman voting, but still, certainly something to be mentioned after such a great season at Arizona State. What I like about him, he has really good vision, really understands his cutback lanes and when to hit them. He seems to be very patient in that. He lets his blocks kind of, happen, and it doesn't rush to get by them, so to speak. He has, pretty good lateral ability, considering his size, and, he does have kind of a natural, leverage that seems to kind of push him forward, kind of through contact, which has certainly seemed to, bode well for him in his time, especially at Arizona State. He's great short yardage kind of guy, goal line guy. I believe he converted over 75. I think it was 78% of his third and shorts in 2024. I just think his ball security certainly could use some work. Not the greatest thing for him. 10 fumbles, I think, over his last 3 seasons. And his long speed surely is not the greatest. I think he was a 4.6 240. That certainly shows when he's able to break free. He seems to be caught from behind. So yes, we already do have a white running back, so that would probably break the matrix or something. But I like him, Scatterboo. He's my number 7 guy.
Yeah, he is also my number 7 guy. Not in the top 7 for Dibes and Mark. I did go through, I went through the consensus big board, and out of the top 11 guys, he ranked 5th in yards after contact per attempt, 2nd in missed tackle forced rate, 8th in breakaway run rate, and then he was 11th in pressure rate allowed as a pass blocker, where he really struggles. He's a really bad pass blocker. I gave him a 3rd round grade, and I said that I think he would fit best as a short yardage back in a rotation, especially in like a gap scheme, maybe an inside zone scheme, but you can't run him in an outside zone scheme. He's not quick enough. Utilized in the past game with 52 targets, but it's not like he was running a lot of routes. It was just flare outs and things. So he's an intriguing guy. If you want like the bruiser downhill runner that'll fall forward, I don't think he's going to offer a lot of explosion at the next level, though. So
I think I'm higher on him than both of you, and he wasn't in my top 7. I don't know. He's my number 8 guy, and I'm kind of regretting not having him as my number 7 guy. I have a tier from about 5 to 9 in my running back rankings where, get a different type of coffee in me, and I might give you a different type of answer. I don't know. But the last 4 games of the year, Cam Scatterboo went 95 carries for 637 yards, 6.7 yards per attempt, and 10 touchdowns in that 4 games, including the conference championship and then a college football playoff game. Scatterboo, and I'll actually, the one thing I wanted to mention with him is pass catching. I know that Shane mentioned it's mostly just flare outs. I think he's got really good hands. I think he's a sure-handed receiver. I think that's something at the next level. I think the pass protection actually doesn't bother me as much with him not being a good blocker, because if he's out there for a pass play, you probably want him running a route. You probably want him trying to go catch the ball. So that it actually doesn't bother me as much with him as it does with certain other guys.
Yeah, he had 45 receptions for 605 yards this year. Yeah. So, he's utilized well in the passing game, and I do think he can bring that to the next level. So, again, that is Ryan and I's number 7. Dibes, talk to us about your number 7.
I'm going to go a guy that's really climbing up the draft boards, and that is Brashard Smith out of SMU. A really fun prospect. He was a former wide receiver, and definitely not a 3-down running back at the next level. But you look across the NFL, like a guy like Tyrone Tracy of the Giants, who was a former wide receiver at Iowa, transitioned to running back at Purdue, an older rookie, but had a really good 2025 rookie season. We're looking kind of at the same thing. Brashard Smith, not a lot of tread on the tires, definitely raw, very new to the position, but those wide receiver skills really translate. I'm really intrigued by what this guy could do in an Eagles uniform, with how the Eagles like to get their running backs involved in multiple phases. Smaller running back, 5'9", 195, definitely has the frame to add bulk if needed. But yeah, this guy is a dual threat running back. There are a little bit of durability concerns because his frame isn't that great, but overall, I think this guy could be one of the bigger sleepers in the draft. I think the best football is ahead of him, and there's no reason to believe he can't have a career path similar to Tyrone Tracy. So if you haven't heard of Brashard Smith, absolutely killed it at the combine, and I think he's trending up big time.
All right, so there you go. Brashard Smith, number 7 for Dibes, was not in the top 7 for anybody else. So Dibes is pulling in some unique guys here, and Mark's got a few unique guys as well. So we're gonna end up talking about 11 or 12 guys on this show. But Mark, I'll throw it to you next. Talk about this guy is number 7 for you. He's number 5 for me, number 4 for Ryan. Talk to me about Dylan Sampson.
I will just say I do like Brashard Smith as well. I think he's a pretty sure thing to catch on in the NFL just because of his receiving. I don't know. I think he's pretty limited in terms of his upside as a running back, maybe, or like a runner, but really good receiver. But my number 7 running back is Dylan Sampson, like you said. 5'11", 200, what he weighed at the combine. My concerns with him is I'm not sure if he's a pass blocker at all. really. And it's not like he's Cam Skattebo with 45 catches for 600 yards. He's at 37 catches over the last 2 years. I actually think he has pretty good hands. So I don't think he's incapable of being a pass catcher at the next level, but he hasn't really like shown the ability to really take that game to the next level. But he had a heck of a year this year at Tennessee, and really his first kind of go at being the full-time workhorse running back. At 258 carries, close to 1,500 yards, 22 touchdowns, 5.8 yards per carry. The year before, he had less than half that amount of carries, 107 carries for 605 yards, 7 touchdowns, same amount of, like roughly the same yards per carry. So it's, you could say he doesn't have a ton of tread on his tires because he's only had 1 year of full workhorse snaps, I guess. He did get a lot of snaps last season, but I think that there is some untapped upside with him since we've only seen him get that kind of level of play one time. I don't know if he's going to be that 3-down back at the next level necessarily because of his pass protection. And I don't know if I think the receiving is kind of up in the air still. So I do think he's a nice runner in between the tackles, can break some big plays. I can't lie though. I'm kind of regretting ranking him over Skattebo and Caleb Johnson. So I have him 7. You can convince me to rank him 9 pretty easily.
All right. Yeah. So in those, again, of those 11 guys, he ranked 8th in yards after contact per attempt, 5th in forced missed tackle rate, 9th in breakaway run rate, and 3rd in pressure rate allowed. I thought he was a pretty good pass blocker. Tennessee does the whole spread thing, and so he was used in 6-man protections a lot in their spread offense, and I thought he had some good reps at that, but I don't think he had much as a receiver. He had some drops, showed poor hands. The biggest thing for me, like, he is explosive, elite speed and elusiveness. My question is about his size. He's 15th percentile height, 40th percentile weight, and he only had 1 year of significant touches. My question is if he can survive a high workload at his size, because I don't think his traits and his skills are aligned. He's a small, fast guy who is better between the tackles and not that effective in the passing game. And so I don't know. He's a bit of a weird fit. He's a weird guy to project. I think you're going to want to use him in a rotation to try to mitigate those potential durability issues. But I think he's pretty scheme diverse. Like, outside zone utilizes his speed, but he's more physical too. So you could use him inside zone or gap schemes. I think he's pretty diverse. I just wonder what his workload will be able to be. But Ryan, you were the highest on him out of all of us. Anything you want to add in on Dylan Sampson?
Yeah, no, I think you certainly said it nicely. There's a lot of unknown about him, but kind of like Mark, where I think after the first couple of guys, for me, I think they're some of them can be interchangeable, and I just liked what I saw from him over some of the other guys. Given the 2024 season, I think kind of is what kind of pushed me over the edge for him. I just kind of saw it and just kind of liked him more than I did some of these other guys, but not by much. Honestly, there's a lot of talent here in our top 10s here, so I think a lot of these guys could be switched around, and I don't think anybody would bat an eye.
He would have been 5 for me if we did it before the combine. Also, my number 5 and 6 kind of probably jumped him at the combine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is our number 7s. Let's get into our number 6s, and I will lead us off with Caleb Johnson from Iowa. He is 6th for me. He's 3rd for Dibes and Ryan. He's not in Mark's top 7. Caleb Johnson's a 3-sport athlete coming out of high school: football, track, and basketball. He was a 3-star recruit who started 6 games as a true freshman, and he set the record for freshman rushing yards at Iowa with 779. He missed some time in 2023 with a high ankle sprain, but he had a breakout year in 2024, rushing for 1,500 yards and 21 touchdowns. He's 21 years old, ran a 4.57 40-yard dash at the combine. He was 2nd in yards after contact per attempt in 2024, 4th in missed tackle 4 straight, 3rd in breakaway run rate, and 4th in pressure rate allowed. I think Johnson's got great vision and anticipation. He sets up second-level defenders really well. He is a patient runner behind the line of scrimmage, and he doesn't try to do too much. He just takes what is there, even if it's not a lot, and he moves on to the next play. I think he's a decent pass protector, and he's definitely got room to grow there. Like, there's a good foundation. And I think he's less of a power runner, like a bowl you over guy, and more of a guy who kind of absorbs contact and just continues to move forward. He's not like this battering ram. He's like a shock absorber almost. He did contribute to the passing game in 2024. He had 22 catches for 188 yards, but it was mostly like screens and swing passes. He's not running a lot of routes, but he's just got low end speed and explosiveness. He can't accelerate quickly once his feet slow down. And that's the big issue, I think, for him. He's not twitchy in his cuts. He's not going to make a lot of guys miss. He runs very upright. I put a 3rd round grade on Caleb Johnson. I think he would fit best in a zone scheme where he can use his vision to pick the right holes and then hit them with power. So inside zone, he doesn't have the speed, I don't think, for an outside zone scheme. He is an ideal like short yardage red zone back. I just don't know that he's a feature back at the next level. So he's number 6 for me. Dives, you and Ryan have him at number 3. So you guys are obviously higher on him than I am. What am I missing with Caleb Johnson?
Yeah, I think in a draft class, again, I'm very high on a lot of these running backs, but I do think he's got 3 down upside. Like you said, definitely would thrive best in an outside zone scheme. But I think what we saw on tape does not lie. I mean, if you watched Iowa all year, he carried that offense over and over and over again. I've kind of weirdly become an Iowa fan. I am definitely biased when it comes to Caleb Johnson. So there is that. But I do think he's a hard runner, a physical runner. I do agree. I don't think he necessarily has that second gear in that second level, but I think he's a powerful guy, and I'm definitely not doubting him. I think he's one of the best running backs, and he's my number 3, and I think he's probably got more of a round 2, round 3 grade.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna miss on a running back, it's going to be a guy like this. Like, I didn't like David Montgomery, way back. And I feel like I underrated David Montgomery his entire Chicago tenure. And he ended up, becoming a really good player in Detroit. And maybe you could point to situation and play calling and splitting with Gibbs and everything like that to his explosion. So if you're a big fan of Caleb Johnson, I think David Montgomery, who ran a 4.63 at the combine, is probably your direct comp, and you're probably saying if you put him in the right system, I think he could be pretty similar. He's saying DeMarco Murray. It's kind of the same archetype there of back, I'd say. But I'm kind of with Shane, and if I'm drafting a guy, I'm gonna kind of want the guy who has the home run speed at a young age, especially. And if I'm maybe bringing in a vet for a rotational piece, maybe I'm looking for a guy who's more solid, but I just don't know if he has the home run speed to get to the second level and make those big plays happen, those 30-plus yard rushes that obviously we've become accustomed to watching Saquon and probably spoiled by, obviously. But I think Caleb Johnson will be a solid back at the next level. I'm just a little lower on whatever the ceiling is for me. And, yeah, I mean, I remember Daniel Jeremiah was pushing him as a first-round pick before the combine, and I was – aghast at that. I didn't understand it at all. And it seems to me like his stock has kind of settled where I have him, which is low second, high third. Someone said he'd argue Montgomery has better acceleration in the short range. Yeah, I have to check the splits out. I don't have him right up next to me, but I think they're pretty similar. Montgomery might be a little quicker, but
I think like right there with Cam Scatterbo, like he was just such a fun watch, such a fun watch every week. Yeah.
All right. So that is Caleb Johnson. Mark, I'll throw it over to you. Talk to us about your number 6, who is not inside any of our top 7s. Talk to me about DJ Giddens.
I don't think he was inside anybody's top 10s. Am I wrong?
No.
Ooh.
He wasn't in mine.
Yep.
A lot of DJ Giddens disrespect out there. People sleeping on DJ Giddens. I saw my man.
No,
Ryan.
I wait. I think I had him in 10.
Oh,
at 10.
okay.
At
Well,
10.
Ryan knows ball clearly, but
Obviously.
and I saw Brian Pumper in the comments saying RJ Harvey and DJ Giddens. Well, you're gonna like my number 5 and number 6 running backs. But DJ Giddens is a guy that I've kind of fallen in love with. I liked him. I'm a guy who gambles on a lot of Big 12 college football. So I've watched a ton of Kansas State over the last couple of years, and he's been incredibly consistent over the last 2 years. And, 223 carries for 1,226 yards and 10 touchdowns in 2023, 206 carries, 1,343 yards and 7 touchdowns in 2024. You put them together, about 6 yards per carry, 50 catches over the last 2 years. I think he's got some room to grow there as a receiver. A 9.89 relative athletic score, number 23 of all time of 1,935 running backs that have participated in the combine since 1987. Ran a 4.43 with tremendous splits and explosion drills. He's got a good size at 6 foot 212. Really patient runner, follows blocking, finds the hole, really good body control, 25 runs of 15 plus yards, 469 missed tackles in 2023. He's a good pass protector, in my opinion. I haven't done like a crazy deep dive into his pass protection, but it seems to me what I have seen, he's pretty good size to hold up back there at 6 foot 212. So I love DJ Giddens. I might end up higher on DJ Giddens than I am right now if I keep watching him and keep looking into him, to be honest.
All right. DJ Giddens, not in anybody else's top 7. And Dibes, your number 6 is the same way. This is the last unique guy that only you have. But talk to me about your number 6 as well.
I'm so excited. This guy's yet another high riser. Bashal Tutin, if you don't know him, was one of the biggest winners of the NFL scouting combine. This guy's just so fun. He exploded onto the scene at Virginia Tech after 2 years at Southwest Virginia, was dominant there. But if you watch the combine, the explosiveness, the 4.38 40-yard dash, that was on the first attempt. Then he did a 4.32 40-yard dash. Better time than both Saquon Barkley and Jahmyr Gibbs. And he also notched the highest vertical jump, 40-plus inches, the longest broad jump, 10 feet, 10 inches. He's a really fun watch. There are concerns about this guy. He's definitely had way too many drops in the passing game, way too many fumbles. But a lot of people saw this guy as a day 3 dude heading into the combine, and I think he changed that narrative in a big way. This guy's definitely a long way to go. He's raw, but when you put yourself in the same conversation as a guy like Saquon Barkley and Jahmyr Gibbs, man, this guy's measurables are outrageous. His arms are huge. Like, he's just a bull. So definitely check out Bashal Tutin, who I would love the Eagles get if he falls to the day 3 area.
I really like Tutin. I had Tutin RB9, so he's just off, or RB10 actually. So he's just off my list, and he put up great production in the ACC this year. At 15 touchdowns, 6.3 yards per carry, 1,159 yards. I really liked watching him at Virginia Tech this year. He was a bright spot for them. And then, yeah, I mean, you could argue nobody in the entire NFL helped their stock more than Bashal Tutin at the combine. He might be the number 1 winner of the combine this year. I love him, and I think the traits show up on tape.
Yeah, fits the Eagles like a glove.
Totally. I wanted to just respond to a comment here talking about Bucky Irving last year had a bad 40 time and rips long runs all the time.
Did he?
Yeah, he
might have
did.
had a bad 40, but
however, I remember specifically like talking about how I actually just pulled my scouting report up from last year.
Of course you
to
did.
see what I said, but because to make sure I wasn't misremembering, but like I wrote explodes through the hole once it presents itself, gets upfield quickly, extremely shifty, rarely squared up and hit solidly in the open field. Like and then I said he doesn't have home run speed. And I think that's different. Like my biggest concern, I swore I would never just get after the Kyron Williams thing that I would never just kill a running back and take him down my board after I liked him over a 40 time. And it's not just that for Caleb Johnson. To me, it's his feet look slow. He just doesn't look explosive. He's a power guy. And that's fine. I just think you want a more dynamic lead back. I think that's why you kind of want him as a short yardage back. But that's the distinction for me. I think he's a lot different than Bucky Irving.
And if you don't remember, and I said I don't like that type of back, Caleb Johnson, David Montgomery, that doesn't apply for Bucky Irving, who I think I held up the podcast at one point last year so we could find the one clip,
the jump cut,
him juking someone out of their shoes in a jump cut. I love Bucky Irving. I think that guy might become like a top 5 running back in the NFL. Truly, I think he's an absolute.
Yeah, he's nice.
And the one thing I wanted to say, he said he still thinks he's an early round 2 guy. I would place a sandwich wager on that. Caleb Johnson will not go in the top half of the second round. And the other second part of that sandwich wager, Omarion Hampton will go higher than Caleb Johnson.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. Well, let's keep rolling on here. Ryan, your number 6 is Quinshon Judkins. He is number 4 for the other 3 of us. So talk to us about Judkins.
Yeah, listen, I actually really do like him, even though, again, I have him, 6th. It certainly was a battle in this middle portion, but obviously I'm also a big watcher of Ole Miss, and he came into Ole Miss and absolutely just lit the world on fire. His freshman year at Ole Miss, over 1,500 yards, which I believe was the second best rushing season by a freshman in SEC history, only behind the legendary Herschel Walker. Had himself a little bit of a down year in his sophomore year, and then jumped over to Ohio State to kind of split carries with Travion Henderson. But I think what that did was kind of showed that he can work in multiple offenses. His yards per carry is still high at both places. His knack for the end zone still high at both places. So I just think, when you look at his raw skills, I think he's just as good as any one of these people that we're going to be talking about in all my opinion. But I will say his pass protection probably needs a little bit of work. But I really do like his kind of his weapons. I think he can kind of cut pretty nicely. He has a devastating stiff arm. He has great vision. He also, I feel like in short yard situations, he's able to kind of hit the holes and get through them. So I also do love him as a pass catcher as well. And I think in the next level, I think he has the absolute potential to be a stud. I just think it might take a little bit to kind of get there and find his way. But I think he has all the skills, and he's shown it throughout his college career. So,
yeah, that's great ball security too. Only 3 fumbles on 800 career touches. Dibes or Mark, did you guys want to add anything in on Judkins?
Just a complete running back. RB1 at the next level. I do have some takes that we'll get to in just a little bit. I want to save them for now. But I love Quinshon. I think he's a solid second-round running back. And if anybody is a fan of these shows, like I am not a big running back guy. So that's saying something. So for me, I think he's a solid second-round prospect, true RB1 potential. I think his pass protection is pretty good, and he is one of the more well-balanced prospects.
Yeah, totally agree with Dibes. I think the top 4 is a clear top 4. For me, he's clearly 4th of that 4. And Caleb Johnson's not in it, so I know that that's different than a lot of people. But for me, that
Mark and I's top 4 is identical, by the way.
Oh, wow. And for me, there's a gap from 4 to 5, down from Judkins down to 5, and then 5 is tumbled in for the next 5 or 6 backs for me. But Judkins, to me, like you said, true RB1 potential, true 3-down potential. I think that he's a guy who I'd be surprised isn't pretty darn good at the next level.
Yeah, I'm with you. I gave a first-round grade and 4 second-round grades, and the top 3 I said they're bunched quite a bit. But yeah, I think second-round grade on Judkins, he's scheme diverse. You put him in any scheme. I think he's a 3-down back.
Yeah.
Needs to clean up some pass protection. I disagree with Dives a little bit. I don't think he's great at pass protection. I think he's a little slow to sort it out and find his target. He can be a little too patient at times. Like there's a fine line with patience. If you're too impatient and just try to bounce everything, that's bad. And if you're just like too patient, waiting for a bigger lane, that sometimes leads to negative plays too. And sometimes he tends to end up on that side where he's a little too patient and I want him to just hit the hole, but he does have good vision. He's got good hands. Yeah. I think he's a 3-down player at the next level. So I think he's going to be a good value in the second round.
Yeah,
9.87 RAS, by the way.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And Ohio State crushed the combine, man.
And I can't even make my 39-yard dash pro day jokes about Ohio State in the combine. No, they're not LSU.
All right. Well, let's get into our number 5s. Mark, I'll throw it to you first. Talk to me about RJ Harvey. He's in your top set. He's 5 for you. He's not anybody else's top 7. I think he came in. He was like 9 or 10 for me. But talk to me about RJ Harvey.
I love him, and it's just he's undersized, and that's the only reason. 7 for Ryan. He knows ball again. But I think RJ Harvey's a guy who, if he was 5'11", would be in that top 4 that I just mentioned. He's an 8.4 relative athletic score. But if you pull up that chart, it's just because of his size that is weighing him down. Tremendous splits, ran a 4.4. Tremendous broad jump, awesome vertical, shows how explosive he can be. Missed tackles, forced average ranked above the 96th percentile. He's stupid fast and insanely explosive, just undersized. I think he can overcome that. My dog agrees, apparently. In 2024, RJ Harvey had 1,578 yards with 22 touchdowns. In 2023, he had 1,417 yards, 16 touchdowns, 6.8 yards per carry, 6.3 yards per carry. The year before, he was 6.8 yards per carry. Like, I think this guy's showing he's going to get you 6+ yards per carry if you throw him out there. It doesn't matter if he's 5'8" or 6'1". He just happens to be 5'8". And I do think that he shows explosiveness in the passing game as a receiver as well. He's just an explosive athlete in general, as you're seeing from the tapes here. He was actually, fun fact, he was a quarterback in high school. He committed to Virginia to play quarterback initially, and I think it's a fun sliding doors moment. I don't know if a 5'9" quarterback would have worked out or 5'8" quarterback would have worked out. Ask Kyler Murray how that's going, I guess. But I think it might work out at running back.
Yeah, I was gonna get on you if you didn't mention the quarterback thing, because I think that's one of the most interesting things. Like he didn't become a running back until 2020, and so he is an older prospect. He's 24 years old, but maybe that doesn't matter for running backs because they don't tend to get second contracts anyways. And I mean, he is low volume. He's only got 579 career carries, but you can see the athlete. Like once he gets into the open field, he's 3rd in missed tackle force rate. He's 2nd in breakaway run rate. Like he's really good when the athleticism takes over. It's the running back portion of it. Like I don't think he has great vision, and he kind of tends to want to bounce runs, and he's small, and like you get all that stuff. But when you get him in the open field, and I think he's a really good receiver too. And so he's interesting because he's got a lot of development upside, or he's got a lot of upside due to lack of reps at the position. And so you don't know what his ceiling is, but he lacks that consistency. And I am worried about if he's going to be able to pick that up in the next level. So the athleticism, he's a fun guy to watch. That's why I had him down a little lower, though. I'm just a little nervous about him being able to do it at the NFL level.
Every week during college football year, I put out like 6 to 8 shorts on my winners of the week from college football. And RJ Harvey was probably like a winner of them like 6 or 7 times last year. And just shout out to RJ Harvey, man. Just a fun player.
I did the RJ Harvey was on my radar in a funny way. When I first got College Football 25, I wanted to do a dynasty with a random team, looked for one, ended on UCF. RJ Harvey won a Heisman for me first year.
I love that.
He holds a special place in my heart, but he came out and delivered it on the field, even more so. But if you want to go back and play some College Football 25, RJ Harvey, fun player to use for UCF.
Agreed.
All right. Well, let's keep rolling here. Ryan, your number 5 is Travion Henderson. He's also Dibe's number 5. Mark and I both have him at number 3. Talk to me about Travion.
Yeah, listen, clearly I like Ohio State running backs. I honestly, between Travion and Quinshon, again, it was kind of a back and forth thing. They both came out as freshmen and just kind of, rewrote record books. And, I think we were shocked that he kind of came back for his final season there. Really thought he was coming out into the draft last year. But obviously they made it work with both running backs. And, Travion certainly has the acceleration of an elite running back. He can kind of turn anything into a home run, and his burst through the hole, honestly, is better than many NFL running backs at this point. He certainly has certain different gears where, again, if he's patient, he's able to sit behind a block and then hit his hole and explode into daylight. So I will say his pass protection is certainly a lot better than Judkins, and certainly is able to be consistent with it and able to handle one-on-ones. I will say, speaking of that contact, he shows that contact, out on the field as a runner as well, and is, again, I think even as a pass catcher, he seems to have pretty reliable hands. Certainly something his route tree, I would say, would probably want to improve in the NFL. But and honestly, I will say he probably could use a bulk up a little bit more if he's going to be able to bring that pass blocking to the next level in the NFL. So, but all in all, I love me some Travion, and I loved him last year. And like I said, I was shocked that he went back to school.
All right. Mark, anything you want to add in on Travion?
Yeah, Travion's a guy who I actually think in a backfield with Quinshon Judkins, who's my number 4 running back, like he stood out more than Judkins to me. So I there's not much that separates him from Judkins. He just jumped off the screen more, made big plays more often, and he was an absolute monster in their playoff run for Ohio State there. Not that Judkins wasn't, but I thought Henderson was unstoppable during that stretch.
I want to put this out there into the internet. My bold prediction, and he is my number 5, and I love Travion. I think he's a second-round prospect. But I think Travion Henderson will be not just the first Ohio State Buckeye running back drafted. He will be the second running back drafted ahead of Omarion Hampton. I think he'll be drafted in the first round.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's a big take.
Right.
That is a bold take. Somebody cut it.
That's my take.
Save it for next year.
He was first in breakaway run rate at 24.4%. He's got a 9.43 relative athletic score. He was a sprinter in high school. He ran a 10.9 400-meter dash in high school. Yeah. The thing that concerns me with him is going to be injuries and his size. He's smaller at 5'10 and an eighth, 202. He's got an injury history. He missed 5 games in 2022 with a broken bone in his foot. He missed time in 2023 with an undisclosed injury. We'll see what he's able to do. He was really good this year, splitting carries with Judkins. How's that going to be? I think he's got the tools to be a 3-down player. I'm worried about a high workload, though. So I would want to use him as a rotational back, particularly in a zone-heavy scheme, because I think he's got really good vision, great ball skills, 0 fumbles on 667 career touches. But I got a second round grade on him. He's number 3 overall for me. If you told me he was going to go before Hampton, it wouldn't shock me.
I think he blew away everything at the combine. And I think his explosiveness, I think someone's going to fall in love with that.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us all the way to the top 2 guys left now. We all have the same 1 and 2. We all have Ashton Jeanty number 1. We all have Omarion Hampton number 2. Dibes, I'll throw Hampton to you first. Let's talk about him. What are your thoughts on Omarion Hampton?
Omarion Hampton, man, just an elite running back. Great size, great frame. Look at that, 6 foot 220. First and foremost, an absolute load to bring down. He's got a great blend of burst and physicality at first contact, absorbs contact well. He's a pile pusher, but he can also, get into that second level and just drive, just push piles. Strong contact balance. He's got light feet. He's a bigger back, but slippery with good fluid movement. He's also a home run hitter. He's got great balance in terms of being able to push the chains and, get into that next gear in that second level. He doesn't have elite long speed. I would call it like good breakneck speed. I don't know how you want to qualify that. In terms of being a receiver, didn't really get that much opportunity with North Carolina. That offense was kind of garbage, especially last year. So he didn't really get that many opportunities, wasn't, given that many opportunities for options down the field in terms of checkdowns, working underneath. And when it comes to pass protection, I think he's got all the tools, just needs to put it all together. But similar to like Quinshon Judkins, like a very well-balanced running back. I don't think first round status is crazy whatsoever. I think he's got the skill set to be a 3-down player. I think the passing game resume offers room for growth. I think the sky's the limit for Omarion Hampton. He is every bit as good as they said.
All right. Ryan, anything you want to add in on that?
Yeah, listen, he is, there's a reason why we have him all number 2. And it's, he seems to be a guy that can come into the NFL and be the guy. And, when you look at the NFL landscape and at running back, there's not a lot of true number 1 running backs in this league. Certainly a little bit more than maybe there once was, but teams are liking to kind of doing the 2 running back set, and I think Hampton could come in and take over and be the guy. He seems to be able to do all the little things, and he has the speed and he has the agility to make plays and get in the end zone. You just watch the tape and he's exciting. Honestly, he's really exciting to watch.
Yeah, I think he's got good vision. He's willing to take what the defense gives him and not be overly reliant on home runs. But he's at his best when his shoulders are squared to the line of scrimmage and he's running downhill. And that's because he wants to run through you, not make you miss. And that includes in the open field. He was 3rd in yards after contact per attempt. 6th in missed forced tackle rate, 6th in explosive run rate, and 5th in pressure rate allowed. I've got like a late first round grade on him. I think would be best in like a gap heavy or duo heavy scheme where he can just get downhill fast. Like that's what he wants to do. He wants to run downhill, and I think that's what he's going to fit best for. Mark, what are your thoughts on Hampton?
I love him. He's my last first round grade. And you guys know how I am with running backs getting first round grades. I'm definitely I factor in positional value when it comes to my big board. So running backs where they fit in, it really is, they have to be special to get a first round grade. and Omarion gets it. He's number 25, so he's my lowest graded first rounder. But I think he has everything you could possibly want in a running back in the modern day in terms of the size, in terms of the receiving ability. I think he can hold up in pass catching. A tremendous athlete, 9.67 relative athletic score. Ran a 4.46. Like, he was the exact same guy with and without Drake May. Like, when they had an offense that had the high flying quarterback and they were putting up a ton of points through the air, he was an amazing running back. When the offense was entirely him and focused around him, he had the exact same amount of yards per carry, 5.9 both years. Like, wow. I think that whether or not, and I like Dives having the bold take about Travion. And like I always say, I have no idea what NFL GMs are going to do. I'm only saying what I think. And I think to me, like, Genty, tier of his own. Omarion, kind of another tier of his own. And then I think Travion and Judkins are basically right next to each other. And then there's another drop-off. So I think Omarion is very clearly, to me, the second best running back in the class, or at least the second most complete. I do like the Gibbs comparison that someone had for Travion. If Travion hits, there's definitely some Gibbs to his game. But I think Hampton, I'm struggling to figure out who I think the comp is for Hampton, I guess. I don't know if you guys have heard any that – and I know you guys aren't as crazy about comps.
Yeah, that's your game, Mark. I don't
know. I need to get on my grind with comps. I'm going to start really –
Yeah, seriously. What are we going to do without them?
Well, now that I have the relative athletic scores, it's a little easier. I can go pull and compare it to the old ones. It's fun to do that. I like that.
I can't believe you don't already have comps for everybody.
All right. March 11. We haven't even had March Madness yet, Shane. Some of us have to deal with other sports.
I thought those were your like starting points. It's like, who can I compare this guy to? That's the first line in the scout. Like my first line in the scouting report is their bio, like what star recruit, their pathway. Now it's what 8 colleges did they play for?
Yeah,
for Marks, it's like comp.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Like, when my final scouting report, the first line will be comp for sure. Yeah. And then it'll be size, then it'll be stats, and then it's everything else that I have. Like,
one of my favorite parts of our draft Excel spreadsheet is the Mark comps.
Yeah, I love it too.
We'll get the comps for sure. I need to get cooking. March Madness takes up too much of my brain power. Once March Madness is over, once we hit April and it's full draft mode, that's when I really cook.
It's comp city, baby.
Comp season. It's like Howie. Howie's thinking it's comp pick season. Me, it's comp season, but a little differently.
I love this comment from Cameron. March Madness started yesterday for NFL fans, Mark.
Yeah.
Not Eagles fans, though.
No.
Not Eagles fans, though.
We are officially the last team to sign a free agent.
Yeah. Really? Every other team has signed a free agent. That's
Dallas got that long snapper.
And the Ravens signing DeAndre Hopkins was the last other one. So that
free agency is overrated.
I'd rather not sign guys than be signing DeAndre.
You weren't saying that last year.
All right, let's get to running back one. He's running back one for all of us. I can't imagine anyone who's doing NFL draft stuff doesn't have this guy number one, but you never know. There's always some crazies out there. It's Ashton Genty out of Boise State. He's a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. He was a 3-sport athlete in high school: football, track, and basketball. Raised in a military family, so he moved around a lot growing up. But he is 5'8" and 4/8", 211 pounds, 21 and a half years old. He ranked first in yards after contact per attempt at 5.42 yards after contact per rushing attempt in 2024. 39.9% missed tackle force rate, also ranks first. He was 4th in explosive run rate, 7th in pressure rate allowed. He rushed for 2,600 yards this season at Boise State. And we were on the college football shows throughout the season talking about, like, man, they're just not even giving him that many carries in some of these blowout games, and he still put up 2,600 yards. Yep. Genty has elite contact balance. It allows him to bounce off of tackles and keep moving. He has sharp cuts to make defenders miss. He's got a hurdle move to get over defenders if they try to cut his legs. He has great vision and patience behind the line of scrimmage. It's almost like Mark mentioned College Football 25 earlier, but it's almost like Road to Glory mode if you've played that, where you can pull the trigger and it slows things down so you can react. It's almost like that when he's running behind the line of scrimmage. He just sees it. I guess I should say he sees it faster. It slows down for him. And then he has great burst and acceleration through the hole. He hits his top speed quickly. If we want to get into weaknesses and nitpick, we could say he's got good speed, but not breakaway speed, which anytime you have to list good speed as a weakness for a running back, you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, but here we are. There's room for growth as a pass blocker, but it's not bad enough to keep him off the field in obvious passing situations. Like his hand placement is inconsistent. Rushers will get into his chest. You can fix that. And then ball security, maybe he had 5 fumbles in 2023. He had 4 fumbles in 2024, but this is a first round pick. He's a blue chip player for me. He's going to be a top 10 selection in the draft. He is scheme diverse. I don't care if you run inside zone, outside zone, gap, do it. It doesn't matter. He can do it. He's a bell cow back. He's got a good shot to probably go win Rookie of the Year, depending on where he lands at. So Ashton Jeanty, stud prospect in this draft, where there's maybe not a ton of sure things at the top of the draft. I think Jeanty is a pretty sure thing.
Yeah, just a special player. And for someone, for draft sickos that watch college football every single week, obsess about it, the fact that Boise State became must-see TV is saying something. And that's what it was with Ashton Jeanty. I agree, Shane. You nailed it. Blue chip prospect all the way. And a draft that doesn't have a lot of them, I think he's as much of a sure thing in a draft that doesn't have a lot of them. Ashton Jeanty is a superstar.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I kind of had a problem when Bijan Robinson was being called generational. And because the reason I had a problem with that is because guys like Ashton Jeanty come along and guys like Ashton Jeanty exist. This guy to me is generational. I think he is the best running back prospect that I've evaluated. And since I've been doing this seriously since 2020. And I think you have to go back to 2018 to get a running back prospect who's as good as him. And we're pretty familiar with that guy here in Philadelphia in Saquon Barkley. And honestly, I think it's if you compare them as prospects, I think it's an interesting conversation. Jeanty's production is just on a level that we haven't seen recently from the running back position. You look at what he did. Obviously, everybody knows what he did in 2024 with 2,600 yards and 29 touchdowns. But if you look at his 22 and 23 combined, it's almost the same stats. Like in 2024, 375 carries for 2,600 yards, 29 touchdowns. If you combine 22 and 23, 373 carries, 2,165 yards, 21 touchdowns with 61 catches instead of 23 catches over those 2 years. Back in 2023, he actually led the FBS in receiving yards. He's just perfect. I think Jeanty's the perfect running back prospect. I actually like that he's like 5'9" instead of 6 foot. I think he fits in between holes. He finds the hole. He's able to hit it. He can make the tiniest hole turn into a home run. Pause. But there's what's this comment? Well, we're making fun of it.
How would you grade his performance in Kazam?
Kazam? Shaq? I haven't seen Kazam in a long time. Fun fact about Kazam, it's one of the Berenstein Bears, or the, what do you call it? The Mandela effect. People think that Sinbad was the guy who played Shazam, but it's actually Shaq who played Kazam. But some people
I'm not convinced of that. I remember that. I remember there being a movie.
What, the Sinbad thing?
Yeah, it had to have happened.
Oh, so you're one of the people.
I guess I am, because I also remember the Shaq one. I remember seeing the Shaq one because I wanted to see how bad it was. But I also remember Sinbad being in like every movie back then.
By the way, I tanked so hard in my one fantasy future league, and I can't wait to draft Ashton Jeanty #1. I can't wait.
Oh, it's in lock. Lock it in.
Yeah.
All right. Ryan, did you want to add anything on Genty?
I mean, what's to add? Everybody had basically said it all. This guy is clear cut number one running back. There's like you said, I don't think there's a sound mind that would have Genty not number one. And he's absolutely going to go, early in this draft. I will say, he certainly does have a lot of usage, in the college football realm. So, again, I think that's certainly something to watch out for. Maybe later on down the line, but I don't see anything as a negative. I just see things that he could maybe enhance as he gets into the NFL. So,
yeah. All right. Well, there you have it, guys. Our top 7 running backs, and there's more running backs we didn't talk about. Ollie Gordon or Devin Neal, or there's other guys that you could shout out because there's a lot of running backs. There's a lot of guys that can play a role for you in this class. I'm getting the finger for the pause finger from Mark because he wants to say something. Mark, what?
I want to say it clearly and for the record. Ollie Gordon stinks. That guy is washed at age like 23. He had too many carries and looked like a completely different athlete and human being this year. I thought he was going to be a Heisman. He had the same O-line come back year to year, so you can't put it on the O-line. It makes no sense how much he regressed year to year, other than for me to say that he probably got 9,000 carries in high school and got a lot in his first couple of years at Oklahoma State.
Oh, we have another finger.
That guy's cooked.
All right.
Dikembe.
Real quick shout out on Raheem Rocket Sanders, who I think is one of the biggest high risers in this draft. Great speed. He's another bruiser, powerful runner. Keep an eye out on Rocket Sanders as a guy that was a big winner during the combine and could see himself be a day 2 pick.
I would just like to state for the record that Dibes and I had Gordon in our honorable mentions, so basically 11. And I'm pretty sure, Shane, you had him 8?
I had him.
I like Ollie Gordon. I think
I knew someone would ask me right after I X'd off.
No, I have it. I have it. It's 8.
Okay. Was it 8?
Because you had it. You had.
Yeah, I went Gordon, Neal, Harvey, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah. So
I'll throw out Damian Martinez. I don't know if he's actually that good at anything, but when you watch him, he's
that's a great endorsement.
I don't know if he's good at anything.
wow.
He didn't make my top 100, but he's pretty good. He was pretty productive at Oregon State, and then kind of was the exact same level of production. He's 6+ yards per carry. He's not a receiver at all, but
so his comp is a stick you found out in the woods.
Better Gus Edwards. I don't know. That's probably unfair.
Devin Neal out of Kansas.
Yeah.
Guy that we all had pretty high expectations for the Kansas offense this year, and it really struggled. Devin Neal has elite change of direction ability. Kind of got caught in that offense a little bit, so could be a guy that you find day 3 maybe.
Jaden Blue, 41 catches. I think he stinks as a running back, but pretty good receiver.
Texas is low key a great running back school. All of a sudden.
Oh yeah, it's turned into RBU. I think.
Yeah.
Are any of you guys Survivor fans?
No, not
always.
Not even remotely close to you, Shane.
What is this season? 412.
48.
I was close.
When you said he's like a stick, there's an iconic Survivor scene where somebody just carved a little face with a machete on a stick and tried to pass it off as an immunity idol and showed it to somebody else. It's a stick, and that's what popped into my head. But that's irrelevant now because all of you hate one of the greatest shows ever. So
I don't hate it. I just never got into it. I like
what just happened.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is going to about do it. That wraps up our running backs. Next week, we're going to be back for what I'm going to guess will be the longest episode that we will probably do, or at least the one we'll cover the most players for when we break down edge rushers. And there's a lot of guys that are going to come off in the first 2 days of the draft. And so we'll give you a breakdown on those guys. We haven't decided for sure, but I'm going to guess we'll end up somewhere around 10 or so deep on that. Mark's going to try to say 15 because he thought we should do like 10 or 12 running backs. And I'm going to say, no, the people don't want a 3-hour edge rusher show, Mark, and we'll end up somewhere in the middle.
You didn't want me to do my Damian Martinez. I don't know if he's actually any good at anything. But you didn't want that?
I mean, we can do 25. I got him ranked.
Top 118 edge rushers in the 2020.
I mean, there's enough of them for crying out loud.
You could, I guarantee you could probably easily do 15 in this class. Easily.
Yeah, but we probably won't. We'll
No.
probably do 10
Also,
or maybe 12.
Did anybody read this and just say, "Damn, I'm old"?
Yeah. No, it's like American
Has it been
Idol.
going on that long?
Yeah.
Survivor
I
started
have no
when I
idea
was
how old you are, but still.
Survivor started when I was in 6th grade, and I'm watching it as a 35-year-old with my wife now, and my kids want to start watching it, but I haven't let them yet, and that's kind of crazy. My kids are almost the same age I was when Survivor started.
So what's I mean, 25 years? About?
Yeah, basically.
Survivor is to
so old.
you as is like Hell's Kitchen and MasterChef is to me.
It's
I
what
love
I'm that
it.
way with Big Brother and the challenge.
What is happening?
I'm a big reality TV guy. Somehow just missed the boat on Survivor. I don't know.
I hate reality TV show, but when it comes to Gordon
Seriously.
Ramsay, I just eat it all up.
I don't understand how you guys watch that stuff. It's the same thing
the
over
challenge,
and over again.
Shane. If I can get
Survivor's-
you into the challenge gets Survivor people now. That's like a feeder
Yeah.
system. I know Michelle, which I think she was.
They pull in a lot of
Yeah.
all of the
What is
CBS
happening?
shows. All the CBS shows pull in Survivor cast.
Have a good night.
So that's going to do
So
it for
wrong.
this episode. You guys join us next Tuesday night. We're going to rank our top 5 reality TV shows for the. No, just kidding. We're losing Ryan.
Fear Factor number one.
Seriously. All right, you guys all root for me when I eventually make it on Survivor. It'll be great.
I'll watch them.
Yes. All right. There we go. So that's going to do it for this episode. I think I've said that 4 times now, but be sure you are following these guys on Twitter. Ryan is at Philly Sports PSA. Dibes is at Mr. Crockpot. Mark is at Mark Henry Jr. _. I am at Shane Half NFL, and we will catch you guys next time. Go Birds.